Welcome to the Global Tech Leaders Podcast, where we help business leaders and individual contributors with actionable insights to hit their number and figure out the nuances of truly operating a business globally today, squeezing the essence of the lessons learned from the planet's top tech leaders. This is your guide to joining the fast track to global market scaling.
So today we are joined by Eugene Zhang, who is a founder and CEO at TSVC. He was also one of the early senior members over at Cisco and a founding team member at Juniper. So just to give you a bit of background on what TSVC do, they were founded in 2010, so going for 11 years, nearly 12 at this point. Proud to be a leading early stage venture capital fund in Silicon Valley, investing in forward-thinking ideas and cutting-edge deep technologies, as well as partnering with exceptional founders in the extraordinary entrepreneurial community. TSVC has been ranked in the top decile of early-stage VC funds in Silicon Valley, quite the accolade. Over those 11 years, they've delivered outstanding returns for their investors by funding 160 startups in the deep tech-focused areas such as SaaS, AI, GIPS, FinTech, Biotech, blockchain, and Semiconductors. With unicorns such as Zoom to their name, they need no further introduction. So welcome to the show today, Eugene. Excited to have you on.
All right. Thank you, Ross. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Fantastic. Well, what I want to do is just kick off and learn a bit about your story. So, take us through your career. You're obviously in the Valley area. You're very passionate about what you do. You've clearly got an eye and an ear to the ground on what's an innovative technology and spotting winners, but really take us through your career journey from a personal perspective, if you would, to start.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm a kind of a new generation of immigrant, originally from China, and got my graduate degree in the U.S. So time flew by, like a good 30 years in Silicon Valley.
Wow.
Kind of get brainwashed, by all the development here. Very religious about the eco and the culture, and then in the valley. So my personal kind of career, I put it as like two paths. So one path was on being an employee working for big companies, high tech companies. Because I had a double E degree, so that's why it's engineering kind of path. The other is more on the entrepreneur side. So let me quickly get on to the first path. I work at the first job was at MDAL, which nobody know about it today. It turned into acquired by Fujitsu, the supercomputer company from Japan. And then it's really the mainframe, a desktop and PC kind of a networking kind of thing. So later on, their business was destroyed by the, desktop computer. And then I joined the Sun Microsystem, with a star. And then today, Facebook occupy all their buildings. Yeah. And luckily, at that time, I worked with a coworker. Later on, we started a company together. He was from Japan. And later on, I joined the Cisco system. Cisco was the stock company in the Valley. Stock splits and went to the original price point every 6 months. It was the exciting, crazy time of Cisco. And also, luckily, I worked with a lot of nice and good, smart people along the way in these companies. And then my Sun Microsystem boss, influenced me to join a startup called Juniper Networks. It was turned out to be extremely lucky. He was one of the co-founder of one of the three, and then dragged me there very early on. So Juniper Networks, after 3 years went public, valuation was as high as $70 billion at one point. Yeah, so 3 years, it's unthinkable today, but part of the .com thing was the networking. So that's my kind of career. And then on the entrepreneur side, quickly, I co-work with my partner in a co-work at a Sun Microsystem. We did a company, later on was acquired. after Juniper, we did another company, also in the semiconductor software space and all that. And fast forward to, our venture here. So I started to do some angel investment, and then just out of personal interest, I kept the interest high, invest in a few friends' companies. And then 2010, so I myself and co-founder of the fund, we along with the schoolmates from Tsinghua University, formed this fund. Originally, we called it TK Angel Fund. Now it's called TSVC. So that's kind of the quick summary. Yeah, interesting.
Sure. No, it's a great story, and I've had the good fortune as well to join early stage companies like HubSpot, for example, here in Europe, and to say they're in the moon now would be an understatement as well. So I also got it wrong early in my career. I joined. I suppose not got it wrong is a wrong thing to say, but I had two options coming in at university. One was Dell, and a very good company, great structures, great learnings, great friends, great alumni. But the other was another company I had never heard of called Salesforce.com, right? And I was like, I don't know them. They're CRM. I don't really know. And to be honest, I was offered a PhD in my postgrad in CRM and its impact in business. And I asked my dad for advice, right? And my dad said, no, go with the household name, son, So, but, I've talked about this on previous podcasts, we can't all get them right first time round.
Yeah.
But, I'd like to say I had successes later.
Yeah.
But for me, what I'm curious about for you is, like, what drove you to find opportunities, and what spark did you look for? Like, what special criteria, what personalities did you think were important in the mix to say, yes, I think this is a good winner, backing a horse, for example? What do you look for? What are your gut feel, and then, things on a spreadsheet maybe you have to have?
Yeah, the great question. So we kind of the fund after 10, 11 years, most of the senior partners, they all started a company. We are quite religious about that. So it's all founders, all with the technical background. So we will stay at the seed stage. So now at the very early stage, or pre-seed, seed, A, whatever the stage we are in, then in this early stage, not a lot of spreadsheet, as you mentioned, to talk about, right? So it's very limited attraction of the company. Some company have some little bit of revenue, but it's very hard to kind of forecast in any meaningful way. So founder and then the team, right? So we try to kind of get some kind of conviction about this team, right? So as a fund, we have this investment decision framework. We call it 3 pillars, and then the synthesis of the 3 pillars, and then the judgment call, whatever. Okay. It's but the number one is this kind of the team or the founder. So a few important things we look. Or as necessary condition, not far from sufficient, right? As a business to invest. So we look for, kind of passion, very important. What is the background for the person to start a company, right? Out of what reason to start a company, right? So try to filter out these 2 opportunity is okay, but it's the try to, we try to filter out the pure opportunities type, because money is available, then they do a startup, nothing to lose. So we look for at least some team, with the skin in the game, they treat this as a mission, they don't care very little, some small details, say they quit the job, they don't have a salary, they're gonna be struggling with that decision. Those things, or you say, oh, once you invest, I can quit my job. That kind of thing, we don't need to educate. So although we do very early stage, certain things we don't need to convince you. We need to get a strong signal. The investor, we never play a role to convince someone to do a startup. we want to have that team have this fire, say, this is, I want to do this. Okay, then that's necessary. Some people have that passion, but they cannot go anywhere, right? But that isn't the necessary piece. So they need to have this kind of mission and personal kind of thing. So all the startup we bet on, at least, we all have this kind of conviction to say this is really what they want to do. They want to take some very significant sacrifice on early, in pay and all that. And they don't treat this as it's like a sacrifice. They just think they should be doing no brainer. So that kind of thing. At least those are the very basic stuff we need to look for. Of course, then the person had to be certain leadership skills, right? So then with that, the basic stuff, then we need to look at the person, the certain leadership skills, can get a team together, can, think, has the, okay. So it's open, we have their own conviction about things, vision, but also open-minded enough, right? So stubborn, but also can listen. It's tough, but still can listen to a degree. So it's not like I know it all. So it's it's a combination. If the CEO is weak, it doesn't know what to do. They say, tell me, what do I do? Tell me, what do the investor want to hear? Those are just immediately we write them off. If someone asks, hey, what do you like to see? That's you need to know more than us for whatever you do. So long answer, but a quick, a few short things I may just mention.
Yeah, that's very interesting and feedback I've had before. I suppose one of the key things I'm really interested in is leadership skills that you mentioned there. So you talked about the opportunity, you talked about the founder, the mission, the sacrifice, fire in their belly, I guess, is important. But I think what's interesting that you said stands out is leadership. And why I say that is you're investing in areas such as SaaS, AI, chipsets, FinTech, Biotech, blockchain, semiconductors. Okay. Some would see, technology as being innovative, right? I don't think so. I think technology is the platform, right? So, if you're not on the internet, you're missing an opportunity. If you're not aware of what AI is bringing to the table, it's controlling you. If you're not familiar with blockchain, get familiar quick because it's disrupting financial markets quite dramatically. FinTech, I've had many people on and spoken extensively about that as well. Another area I'm very passionate about is disrupting old school banks, etc., because they're just not competing with the modern world. So I think for me, if you're not in those spaces, that's where the innovation happens, is those spaces, right? But the reason I bring up leadership, if you look at a company like Zoom, okay, Zoom and what they're doing isn't particularly groundbreaking. It's actually, it's the platform we're speaking on now, but this technology has actually existed for over 2 decades, maybe. Yeah. You had programs before like GoToMeeting and Microsoft, their own instance. You had Skype, etc. So my reason for bringing this up is you've got to see something in a person that says, I'm going into a space that's crowded, right? I know there's other people there, but I believe we're going to be different, and here's why. Tell me about that experience. Maybe Zoom specifically is fine, but like, tell me about a leader that you were like, wow, this leader knows what they're talking about, and I believe in their vision. Tell me a bit about that experience, if you would.
Yeah, that's definitely a good context. So so back to the people side. The Zoom thing is one on the market competitiveness side, and then the team. So, the background about Eric is very, very unique. He didn't get a degree, official kind of degree in the US. It's directly hired by the WebEx co-founder, to work in Beijing office, China office, and then he did very well, and they decided to move him here. So it's just kind of work coming here, get a for that kind of status. So he moving up the rank really from the engineer all the way, so to be a VP. so when I ran into him 2011, right? So he got frustrated at the Cisco. WebEx was really the pioneer. Maybe some company before WebEx, they all maybe failed. WebEx was the only one went public doing this grand vision, the creating this market segment. Until the 9/11, I think they give them the big boost on business. Otherwise, people say meeting is in person. What are you talking about? You remote meeting? This totally does not make sense. Human need a meeting in person. But clearly he was frustrated at the Cisco because WebEx acquisition there, and then it's a tiny business inside Cisco. So he, we got a message of what he want to do the next generation, couldn't do it inside the Cisco, and want to give us the bigger bonus, whatever the earn out in 3 months. He doesn't really care about this. This is what he want to do, and then also can take quite a few key employees to follow him. It's very important signal. People can a leader. People follows, and then so these are the very good personal, people's side of things. That gut feeling of okay, he knows this space. He knows what's the weakness, and then can do the next generation. Right. So another thing is on the market analysis side, it's more complicated. If you do a lot of market analysis, it's really very you could turn very confused, or you may not score very high because as you mentioned, Skype, and then the Apple had this FaceTime, phone call, but the mobile experience was not occupied. So you do it, WebEx in all the net meeting, they are most desktop. Skype has this thing on the phone, but they get acquired, and then we know by my
Microsoft, right?
Background, working experience at the Cisco, they always buy the company because they know internally they cannot do anything. They go out, always buy companies. So the minute they get acquired, you kind of create opening for the company in your competitors. They all think it's a good news,
Sure.
So the mobile is way open. So that's one key we believe. Some people choose not to believe, thinking this is not gonna. Of course. Why we need another one? So the combination we hear that Eric or that. So the team really way much higher than the market analysis side. So that's kind of the conviction. We were the only little institution investor among the original 18 angels. Was for the first round, was all friends. Kind of a family round for the first seed round. We were the only seed called a fund investor in among the 18. That was the history.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, tell me about some technology that you are passionate about. Tell me about something that you feel is groundbreaking. I mean, this is the reason I'm so excited to talk to VCs and private equity guys, because you get to learn about what's coming and cool companies, and people we speak to are gravitating towards these. So tell me about a technology that you are really passionate about, that you do see as maybe groundbreaking and it's not so crowded, and you feel will be very exciting going forward.
So I think being the seed investor, I mean, we really are facing all the unknowns, right? So, but the exciting thing keep myself and my team member going is this forward-looking thing, right? So it could be very debate, and a lot of debate also. People, the risk tolerance always has a distribution, right? So we also internally have a lot of discussion about, is this really be a realistic business, or it's just a kind of pipe dream, right? So that kind of thing, it's constant, but keep us going. And it motivated, it's interesting. So our fund, you earlier mentioned the sector coverage. We are really, very broad, because we have this 11 years of history. We have the unique team, full-time partner plus the part-time, active founders in various domains to allow us to do very broad coverage in the investment space, kind of very, very unique for what we do. So that's why we can get them exposed to many things Other funds may, or much bigger fund can do this, take this generalist approach, right? So for us, we are fortunate doing this, but also we can, get engaged with all the exciting things happening, I think, right? So getting, so of course we have done, 100, by now 180 companies across all kind of industries. Now, a lot of things are very exciting. Some are, in the existing market to do 10x, or 20x better. That's, but those are incremental. But there are a lot of emerging sectors. It's a very, kind of interesting. So for example, we just, for example, so exciting things. One is for example, the hydrogen economy. Okay, so the clean or renewable energy, it's actually quite difficult to invest. The last wave, right?
Really?
Maybe 10 years ago, a lot of VC put the money in the renewable energy. I think the return was miserable, right? So the renewable energy. But now, second time around, I tend to believe that you don't want to learn the wrong lesson. For example, web van burned and crashed, and then if you choose not to invest in DoorDash, that's your choice.
Sure.
But it didn't mean the opportunity. A lot of people take web van, it's dead. Why you want to, this stupid business model will come again, why you want to invest? Why? You can learn this kind of lesson and don't touch it. That's okay. Nobody cares. Actually, you don't invest.
Sure.
Right? That's the thing. Sometimes you learn the wrong lesson is very fatal. I mean, but you need an open mind to see what is different, right? So although the new energy investor was very burn and crash kind of to a degree, solar, right, in Silicon Valley, right now the electricity parity is so far exceeded the original quarter parity. And then a lot of solar companies in that space are quite profitable, but all the Silicon Valley solar business, they all disappeared. They all died, including the one Obama putting $500 million government loan into Cilantro. Okay, so that is, okay, that's the background of the bloodshed business. But I'm mentioning the exciting thing.
Yes.
Looking at a clean way to generate hydrogen. There's all the forces coming together from the macro. Of course, you don't want to count on the government policy, but there's certain things coming together, make it possible. One enabler could be, because solar is so cheap, you can generate and then generate into hydrogen, for example. That's kind of interesting to help the Earth to sustain a little longer.
Yeah.
Right? So that's either by we look at economics, so it seems like it's possible, and we still very high risk. We probably would do a bad. So that's one. Another one on a hardcore business side is really we see multiple companies try to using AI. Kind of early first impression I didn't believe at all, but using AI to create a formulation material and to guide you this finding new materials. Maybe the application is in battery application, all that stuff, because the normal way is you try the combination of materials and then you test it. The testing is taking forever, right? Each innovation, but using AI maybe help you to guide this kind of material discovery, all that stuff. After you see a few companies doing this, you may realize that maybe this is the future of doing something. Yeah. For example, this big QuantumScape, a lot of controversy, but that they are in that space also. QuantumScape become a public company through SPAC, still worth over $10 billion, but in that space also. So that's also kind of exciting. A lot of things happening. So another thing I want to mention is, of course, I personally keep very broad interest. I just like to have a new thing, especially sometimes I don't know, I even more interested. Sometimes it's become dumb, right? You're putting money, become dumb. But you know but I'm also a believer in blockchain related stuff. You know, the DeFi could have a significant impact, and also, you know, for NFT also make a lot of sense, meet the human desire, right, to do the NFT, for example. It's you know, a lot of people want to get the recognition. It's a perfect match. So that also I choose to believe in it, and then, you know, see which company can do well. But of course, a lot of people say I just don't believe this thing at all. Then don't touch it.
Sure. Forgive my ignorance, but what does NFT refer to?
Okay. Yeah. So it's called a. So you know, it's a non-fungible token. You heard about this art piece sold for $68 million unique signature, right? Yeah. So that is thing to give you a unique signature. I'm not the expert, but in general, it's just that give you this bragging rights. So that I own that, declare to the world that I am the person own this piece, and then later on I can even trade it, for example. So give you this. Whatever the famous celebrity, you know, they want to own a piece of something, you know, right? This is the way to own digitally, right? For example, so a piece of art or a picture, unique picture, everything, you know, right now can be done. A lot of noise right now. For the real thing to reside, you can, for example, charity, for example, charity, I ask you, Ross, I'm doing this great mission. How about you? Last year you donated $10,000. This year I'm gonna ask you, Ross, you know, we have done this kind of work. Why don't you donate $10,000? You know,
sure.
Okay, that's the older way. The new way is, hey Ross, see, we have a you like art, you are kind of art collection. You Chinese painting, oil painting, whatever, the digital form or a special, whatever the early days open source code. You want to reward. You are about the guy created the WW Web. You know, the piece of software.
Yes,
I'm gonna generate the digital signature. How about Ross? You buy 1/10 of this art, and then you own that piece, and then you buy the money. You buy. I'm gonna auction the charity, and then you buy that, and you have a piece of thing you own, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a much better way for you to donate. So I even own something, and then maybe there's a marketplace you can even trade. That's a secondary. So all these things coming, it's kind of very interesting. I choose to believe, but a lot of our fake companies in this space are 1 out of 9 out of 10 are not going anywhere. But there's one maybe a real company building business. So in that way, people will be more open, embrace this. So the NFT, I also choose to believe this is could be a very big.
Very interesting. Yeah, no, I can see how that would make sense from a computational perspective, digitally, how that would work. I suppose one of the things that I kind of struck me about what you were saying was that you've invested in 180 companies. You're involved in very early seed stage rounds. You were one of the only organizations, to be an organization funding Zoom in the early days when it was friends and family. That's really interesting for me. Do you think that is just you have a really high tolerance for risk? You like risky things? Or do you have like a process maybe internally in your mind that allows you to process risk? Because clearly you're not a gambler. You're making decisions that are correct. And I'm just curious to know, like, how do you do this? Like, how do you, because let me put it this way, okay? It's very common to speak to your friends. You're down the pub, you're speaking to your friends, and you go and ask family members. It's phenomenal. Human nature is you ask family members for advice. They are completely unqualified to give you. Like, the worst people you can give advice to or get from is your family, right? So I'm curious to know, like, you're obviously in a circle of people that you trust. You're working with people who are very smart, as you mentioned. But I'm curious to know, like, Do you find yourself to be a risk taker? Do you believe you're a risk taker, or do you think you're a calculated risk taker? And is there a process you go through to make decisions in your mind? Obviously, you have a framework. We talked about that, but I'm curious to know from an initial perspective, like what gives you a feeling that I could believe in this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, for the fund, for certain things, we also stay away right now the official fund. We don't directly invest in crypto, for example. Maybe someday we do a separate one. But definitely, it's we have put it that way. Every time we release a check, I feel nervous. Totally true. Yeah, I think every single time we say, did we miss anything? So I want to give you the honest answer. Every single, I don't know other people how they see when they write a 10 million check. Even for us, it's $500,000 or $1 million every single time. It's kind of a feeling that it's kicking in. That's the so because it's you end of the day you are investors the money. Okay, so we are really in the balance of the risk, business, right? Put it that way. So if you, every fund has a filtering system, you say no to, right? So the way so no to it because you say the chances are low, people don't have conviction, that's you say no. Okay, so we internally. That's why we have team. This discussion, debating is so important, right? Okay. But ultimately, we want to achieve a goal that, using one example. So, say there are 3 companies coming to the pipeline, and then you have 3 is a good reference. So, 2 of the companies, in hindsight, turn into a company you should not invest.
Okay.
And then one of them was this potential great success. And then either you choose to kill whatever the methodology, you kill all of them, or you let them pass. So if you have a choice of that, your mechanism, your fund, the mechanism should let the 3 pass. That is our goal. Whatever we fine-tune our risk tolerance, we say our goal is not a block because the way you set up whatever say if we have a formula, actually there's no fixed formula. The way you guide it is if you block all the 3, if that's the first consequences, and the second is you let 3 pass, then ultimately the fund should choose to let the 3 all pass, and we invest all 3 of them if that's the choice. So that is whatever the debating system internally has to gear towards that. Because you remove all the low risk, then you kill the good deals also. So that's the balance we need to strike. I don't know if I made it clear. That is the goal. So if your mechanism try to reduce the risk exposure to the point that you kill all of them 3, you will not be successful because you kill the one good deals also.
Of course, yeah. So
like so
healthy debate is a big part of it, right?
Yeah, so we encourage heavy debate. Our debate sometimes is like gone a little crazy. It's also our the 10-year, 11-year history. We also have a unique participation scheme. I participate in the fund carry just like other people on the credit base, on deal basis. So we debate on merits. We record it, internally. We make it transparent internally, recording each person, so we can, in the future or in the middle, we can play back. Everybody need to make their strong statement. We don't tolerate anything like, oh, Eugene said it's good, I'm just gonna say good. We don't tolerate any of that. So what the lesson we learn is, you speak your conviction. You don't listen to you are open-minded to listen, to other people why they say no or say yes, but you don't follow. You either you say I don't know enough to come in, or you come in with your own view, right? It doesn't matter who you are disagree with. Never a concern. So this is the culture we build in. We have the digital way to capture all this, right? So this is we encourage this. And after hefty debate, if we still can, okay, let me give another minute. So we have this pro and con, try to convince each other, right? In some cases, you still cannot convince, someone says, no, I still don't believe this company can succeed. Then we have a voting mechanism, finally. We usually we can, in most cases, we can convince each other, either on the no side, on the yes side, that's okay. But if you cannot, then we have to go to the vote. We live by the vote, we record a vote, why, record a why, and then we move on. Either yes, we invest, no, we kill the deal, and then we record it, and then we move on to other things. So we have this mechanism internally so that we all can be peace, because not turn into personal fight, right? So that's the way to do it. And then, we all of that of the 10, 11 years history, I think we got this part really, kind of the result and kind of be the piece of our founder culture or practice. It's the most important piece, actually, more than other things. Yeah.
There's no question you've nailed that. It's very, very obvious. We've spoken on previous shows about founders and founders being ideas people and founders moving into a leadership role. So they have, very strong technical skills. Maybe they're engineers, and I know Michael Gerber talks about the E-Myth and engineers running companies and that sort of stuff. But then you've got folks like Mark Zuckerberg, who's transitioned to become a leader, traditionally wouldn't have come naturally. But I'm kind of more curious on, you mentioned about people who are leaders and people who, brought people with them on a journey and, left companies they were in to join this person. And that's fantastic. And there's definitely elements of natural leadership that happen with a person that just has energy coming out of their pores, and that's great. But one of the things I want to talk about is you mentioned there about culture. So you talked about your own internal culture. And any of the startups that I've had the good fortune of being part of, they have a culture like playbook. They have this is what we believe. Do you ever engage in discussions with founders and organizations you invest in to say, and they come to you and they say, hey, we need some help developing culture. Like, we believe we're good leaders, but we need to grow and scale. We're going to use this investment to scale and grow, but I need your help developing culture. Have you had that conversation, and how do you give guidance on developing a good, prosperous culture? Like your debating structure you talked about, I love that. How do you help founders with that process?
Okay. Yeah. I think tough question to be honest. I think you. Yeah. So definitely there are a few using influencing the founder, but really in the the founder space are very dispersed. Each has very unique, very, every company, the CEO founder are quite a different. We try to be kind of play the assisting role. So we as a founder, we don't believe in coming in and changing the team structure kind of thing. So that's our by choice. Certain VC, they come in, can remove the CEO, even the CEO, is not willing to. So we choose to just the limit is we tell you we don't agree with your practice, but we don't take proactive action. In almost all cases, maybe some exception. So unless something really alarming, a red flag pop up, if it's a personal style thing, we try to work. We know each company has different, each CEO has their own unique background. Why you inject your view this is the way to do it, right? It's just we don't believe in it. We let you to run your own show. So I think when I have a chance, usually I think one thing is ask them to raise the transparency. Some CEO kind of, so I just strong believe all the great companies today, when I talk to a person work at an Intuitive Surgical, I say, this company runs so well for so long. What is unique about this? About Intuitive Surgical, right? He named one thing, it's transparency. You look at Netflix, I think it is also a part of that also. Great companies always have that. I'm not sure about Apple, but so that it help you in all that. So yeah, it's really a tough question, but it enables to company from a good company to be a great company.
Nice.
It has the culture. Zoom also has this unique also culture. Early days when Eric talked about happiness, I was like, oh, a little bit. I'm
There's work to do here, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, like happiness. So, but when I'm meeting him, he's really believing it. What matters? People are not happy. You get the company get a $1 billion valuation, get a lot of VC money, and if nobody's happy, things won't work. See, from that angle, after that talk, like maybe, yeah, okay, so happiness. So he using that is of course not just the words, but action, all that. So as long as you have a way to unite people together, creating a healthy culture, that's very important from a good company to great company. So yeah, we will do more on this with our, but because we are relatively early, so usually not at the top priority, to be honest. When a little company, they are busy with some traction. So, but it's a thing I mentioned to them, when you later on, you need a day one, you need to think about build a company culture,
Yes.
for greater company building, all that. Yeah. So it's kind of long. It's yeah.
No, it's a great answer. And I think the things that I take away there's two main things I take away: raise transparency and happiness. And clearly they've been very, very successful in the experiences you've had. So I suppose just as we round the corner here and we wrap things up, I'm curious to know, with such a busy schedule and, such a dedicated work ethic, what do you do for fun, and when do you have fun and free time?
Oh, thank you. Okay, so so I do some sports that kind of important. We can get away. I play golf is quite a common, not a single handicap, but try to get there as a goal. Try to get there. So enjoy all kind of sports, some reading. Or some many times listen to a podcast
like this one, of course. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Right, Ross. Yes.
Well, look, it's been a real pleasure to have you on today's show. I've learned a ton. I really enjoyed your alternative approach. It's clearly been very successful. I very much enjoy speaking to you again and having you on another show. So thank you so much, Eugene.
Yeah. Okay. Great to be on, Ross. It's a pleasure. Okay. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Global Tech Leaders Podcast, designed for both established and aspiring career-focused tech rock stars, as well as helping leadership figure out how to speak global in today's multicultural world. For further details, check out sf-talent.com.